Welcome to Nerds on Ice. I'm your host and dark vigilante of justice, Chris Fury. Thank you for tuning in. And let me introduce you to our guests. Returning to the show, we have Venchise. She's one half of the husband and wife cosplay duo, Team Mixed Madness Cosplay. They won Best Group Duo at multiple conventions with their 17th century gender swap Joker and Harley Quinn. Venchise has also cosplayed Catwoman circa 1992, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Batman Returns. You can check out her work on Instagram at mixedmadness_cosplay, and that's mixed with a Y. Thank you for joining us, Venchise.
Absolutely. Happy to be here again.
Justin is a proud soon-to-be father of a future Supergirl who will be a mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan blog and can wrestle any nerd around to defend her Papa's championship title amongst all Superman and Batman nerds. Thank you for tuning in, Justin.
Happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Our next nerd has been part of the circle since the beginning. Smooth Bob is working on Mecha Academy, an upcoming weekly show where we will walk you through building Gundam model kits, whatever your other model kits he gets his hands on from around the anime-verse of Mecha. He's Smooth as Bob on Instagram and King Cosmo 2091 on Twitter. Thank you for coming in, Smooth Bob.
No problem at all.
And bringing up the rear, we have Brian. He has spent the past 25 years acting, singing, dancing, and entertaining the masses. Although he still does work as an actor, he has shifted positions in life and has taken on the role of director, videographer, editor, and scriptwriter. Recently, he has taken a headfirst dive into Uranus, working with the video team to expand Uranus Fudge Factory. It's a fun, kitschy stop in St. Robert, Missouri, and #1 tourist stop on Route 66. Only the best fudge comes from Uranus. Check out Uranus, Missouri for questions, comments, or whatever you have and email at bknationvideo@gmail.com. Thank you for coming in, Brian.
Thank you. It's a pleasure just drinking from Uranus.
So tonight's main topic is Michael Keaton being brought on into the DCU cinematic universe as, of course, Bruce Wayne or Batman. There's a lot of talks right now. Michael Keaton has very much expressed and held on to that title of Batman for years. He's even been at the Kent State graduation as ending the graduation ceremonies with saying, "I'm Batman." So yeah, he's obviously more than ready. What are your thoughts about Michael Keaton coming back in and possibly wearing the suit again? We'll start with Venchise.
I have a lot of thoughts. I'll try not to get them all out at once. I love Michael Keaton as Batman. I think it's a little bit of nostalgia also, but loving his performance. So, it's like, of course I want to see him come back. I'm very interested in how they will do it because the Tim Burton Batman and Gotham world that we know is so different from how the DC universe is now. I feel like when I watch the older Batmans, like Gotham is not part of our world. It has its own style. The decades are all kind of mashed together and it's easy to like see it as this cartoon world brought to life. Whereas the modern movies seem to be more like Gotham could be New York or Chicago. They're putting these characters into our world. And it's like, does Michael Keaton's Batman fit into this new one? How are they going to merge it? What's it going to look like? So it's like, I feel like it's such going to be an interesting mixture. I'm excited because I love Michael Keaton, but I'm a little nervous, but excited. It's a mix. I'm kind of a mixed bag right now.
Brian, what do you think?
I think that, first of all, Michael Keaton was by far my favorite Batman. I think that he exuded all the qualities for both Bruce Wayne and Batman, which is not always there for, the character that's been throughout the years. But I also think that this might be one of the last-ditch efforts to actually keep the DC universe going in the direction that it's going, because there's nothing connecting it. I mean, I haven't enjoyed the most recent, Justice League Superman. I think Wonder Woman is one of the only good things that's really coming out of it. So I think being able to bring in a centralized character to actually tie in whatever they're doing, might actually bring it closer to what the Arrowverse is on TV. And that Arrowverse, they're doing it absolutely correctly. It's been done wonderfully. The movies have just been, as far as I'm concerned, falling apart.
Yeah. Justin, what's your take on it?
I basically agree with what everyone has said there. Michael Keaton is by far my favorite Batman of all time. It was actually my first movie I ever saw in the theater. I was 5 years old. My parents took me and my twin brother at the time to go see it, and I was hooked. And looking back at like all the Batmans, you've always had like Adam West, who was campy, so goofy and all that deuce. And then you get an average person like Michael Keaton coming in as Batman with that whole Gotham City universe. And it did wonderful. So everyone with the points of like bringing it together, because you're right, the Arrowverse has done a great job on TV, and that's what DC's quality is right now, is they make good shows. However, with Marvel winning, DC needs something, and why not bring back someone who loves the role of Batman and can keep it together? He's basically the person to do it, and he's by far the best person to say, "I'm Batman."
Right. Smooth Bob, what you got?
I think Keaton coming back as Batman would be a great way to fix the DCEU mess that is those movies. I mean, because they've been talking about like having somebody play Bruce or someone in the Bat family in the Flash movie, because they're supposed to be doing Flashpoint. So why not bring in my opinion, probably the best Batman besides Christian Bale, although people gave Bale some stuff about his Batman. I think Keaton would be great as Batman again, or at least Bruce, with like the suit behind him or something like that. Or, you know, just make Batman Beyond, like everyone's like we're far enough into the future where we can do Batman Beyond and have him be old Bruce, and then have some young guy play Terry and just fix it that way.
So it's funny everyone mentioned the Arrowverse and how the DCU the television, the network shows are doing great jobs, and they are. And that comes to mention that the one crossover, this last recent crossover, gave us one hell of a tease, and it was on Flash, and it was seeing the CW's Flash, Barry Allen, meeting Ezra Miller's Barry Allen Flash, and it was enough for it to be redeemed, because I said, if you're doing this, can it be done? So now there's talks of Michael Keaton possibly, maybe not being in the suit, obviously, but like everyone said, playing old man Bruce, maybe having a flashback of him in a suit of some kind of makeup, and him playing the linchpin of the DCU films going forward, almost playing a Nick Fury type role. What are your thoughts? We'll start with Smooth Bob.
I think they could do that. I mean, I like the CW Arrowverse is probably like my favorite thing on TV. And like the Flash being like my favorite superhero. When that happened, when Ezra Miller's Flash met Grant Gustin's Flash, I screamed like a little Japanese schoolgirl because I was watching and I'm like, this is amazing. You've already got like shots of like older DC TV show characters like Huntress from Birds of Prey. Yes. I was like, that's amazing. And then you brought in like the God Batman. You got Kevin Conroy as Bruce, like old man Bruce, which was like pretty much the best thing on there.
They brought in Burt Ward like at the very beginning of the whole thing, like at the very beginning. And what was his name? Robert Vaughn, who was the reporter on 89 Batman.
Robert Wall.
Robert Wall. Robert Wall. And I mean, they literally said this is probably the most ambitious crossover that they've managed to do, and it seems it's almost to say like, screw the movies, the network is where it's at, because they seem to be getting it right. They seem they're tying the multiverse completely together and saying, hey, this exists. What do you think, Justin?
I've liked how, I mean, when I heard that Kevin Conroy came back as Batman, I'm like, all right, like live, because you always hear his voice.
Right.
I have him come back. I was like, ooh, this is going to be interesting. But I don't know. I mean, there is a lot of things I'm glad they were able to pull, especially having Brandon Routh kind of redeem himself as Superman, because Superman Returns. It was cool to see him as someone trying to replace Christopher Reeve. And that would be a cool thing if Warner Brothers decided to do a CGI of Christopher Reeve in the Superman suit. Because I'm a huge Superman fan at all. And just to see that, I'd have a nerd boner like crazy.
So your thoughts on Michael Keaton playing that linchpin, the Phil Coulson or the Nick Fury role, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, why not just redo Batman Beyond? I think that's my opinion. I mean, and then you can have, who knows, you can probably have Zac Efron come on as Terry McGinnis. I don't know. You could probably picture somebody else because Tom Holland's already taken. Come on.
Yeah, right.
There's no way
he can't be in everything.
Marvel wouldn't let that happen. They'd be like, no.
I mean,
he's not Wolverine, for Christ's sake. You know?
I mean, look at Ryan
everywhere.
Reynolds. He was the one that had to redeem himself. I mean, he was a Marvel comic character, went to play Green Lantern, and he had to redeem himself with Deadpool.
Which he did miraculously.
And I mean,
and still poke fun at it. So.
And that's perfect for him. He needed that kind of role to help his career. But as far as Michael Keaton, I mean, Beetlejuice is on hold. He's got plenty of time to redeem himself as an older Bruce Wayne.
What do you think, Brian?
I want to touch on, first of all, Brandon Routh coming back for the Arrowverse series, the crossover event, and all that.
And he was jacked on top of that. I'm like, good Lord, I didn't know he was that huge. Okay.
I love Brandon Routh. And I mean, unpopular opinion, I love Superman Returns. I thought that, the child with the superpowers at the end, that was kind of stupid, but it was a nice throwback to the Christopher Reeves days, which obviously, I love Christopher Reeves. So shout out to Brandon Routh on that one. But Michael Keaton, it's kind of touching on what I said. I think that he could be essentially the savior of the DC universe, being able to pull everything in. Obviously, it's going to take better writing for a lot of their stories, but if they can get him in there, that's going to be a box office draw, and they're going to actually do a lot of money, as long as they don't essentially screw the pooch on the first one.
Yeah. So, Venchise?
I like to add. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I wanted to quickly add, if Jeff Johns can do a good writing, be a really part of that writing process, because I liked how he's done a lot of the stories in the DC universe in the comics. If he can get involved with that one,
he's done a great
job. He can do well. And then, who knows, get Alan Moore out of retirement.
Venchise?
I mean, I'll admit I am a little behind on the Arrowverse, mostly because I stopped watching for a little bit to get caught up in other shows. And then, of course, they always have their giant 4-series crossover. Mm-hmm. And so you have to get caught up to 4 shows before that. So I need to find the time to do that. But I did keep up with what was happening. So I am up to speed. I think that I agree with all of you that the Arrowverse is DC doing it right. That was where Marvel wasn't. They weren't trying to compete with anyone. They were able to make something great over time and add to it. And I think their movie failure was trying to compete with the Avengers in like 2 movies, where when you look at it, Marvel built up to Endgame like over a decade. I mean, it was not something that they whipped out in 2 years. And I think that's where DC's biggest failure with their movies is. They're trying to play catch up in 3 years. So I think that using the TV show as a launching point to further their movies from like a really solid ground is the place to go, and then go into it for that long game. I think that's the place to go. And I think that using Michael Keaton, it can either be a savior or it's going to crumble depending on how they do it. Because I think he is a great actor, and I think he's of the perfect age to play that sort of sage mentor character to someone, as long as it's really, really written well. And how do they tie it into his original Batman? What do they do to that? Because if you rip him out of Tim Burton and throw him into something and it doesn't match up like that energy and where it was, it's gonna feel like Suicide Squad. It's gonna be a hot mess, and it's gonna be like none of this fits together. So I think it's something that if it happens, it needs to have the time dedicated to it. And I think that Michael Keaton should be I hate to like put actors involved in the process, because that can always be a nightmare. But for someone who was so integral to that role, he will be able to be like, this is not how my Batman would do it. If you really want me to play my Batman, which is also like, are they going to have him play his Batman, or are they writing a new Bruce Wayne for him to play.
True.
So it'll be really interesting. I think he can do it as long as what the material he's given is good.
I agree. I think that if they wanted to really do justice to the whole franchise and to at least get a solid starting ground, to keep it in that dark universe, play some Danny Elfman music in the background, show like a flashback of, sort of like what they did with Batman Beyond when Bruce knew he was just too old to carry it on, have him show a scene like that, have him show a scene where he's talking to Linda Carter's Wonder Woman, where she's not wearing the lasso anymore, but she's the ambassador now, and so he's still conferring with her, stay true to it, but keep it solid, and not toss it in the wind and say, oh, let's come up with this whole new finagled idea, so the talks of, people are saying, hey, Michael Keaton's coming back. Let's face it, in reality, he's not going to be in the suit, but he could be the mentor for the future going forward, and that was the other talks, that he would show up in various DCU films as that mentor, like Nick Fury. He shows up here, he realizes they can't create this team without him, so he helps kind of bond them together. Then he bows out. Maybe bring in Terry, who knows? Let's bring in Dick for Dick or something, Damian, any of them.
I think Damian will be a little too rash. He'd run in there with his sword ready to
kill somebody.
Killing people.
Yeah, he would. There's
a fight there.
Oh yeah, but just to know that they're touching on this and they're making sure that, what better, we need to do a restart. We need to find something, because let's face it, Marvel's been doing it for 10 years. They have a blueprint. DC and Warner Brothers have been playing catch up since year 3. And right when you thought they might be ambitious enough to go ahead and do a Flash movie, do another Green Lantern, which they can't seem to nail down, or what was it, a Cyborg film, and the brash that came out of that.
Or what they did with Batman versus Superman. They had the idea of like mixing
like 3 or 4 storylines.
Like Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns with the death of Superman. Like, especially with what they did with Zod, turning him into Doomsday.
Right.
Bullshit.
You're not the only one to call that one. So
I mean, honestly, like I said, being a huge Superman fan, and I liked how, there was a lot of controversy with Ben Affleck being Batman. I didn't mind that. He was okay. He was agile. He redeemed
himself. He redeemed himself.
He did, but at the same time, the story did suck. Just because putting them together and the way that they were like, oh, I fought you, now I'm back. Here's the common denominator. Our mothers are named Martha.
Save Martha.
God, we must be friends. Oh,
I will say
oh, my fallen parents.
One thing that always makes me nervous, especially when they have actors in any sort of franchise, is if you bring in someone who's so well known to embody a character that has so much history. It like really takes me out of it. Like, I think of Lord of the Rings when that came out, and a lot of those people were relatively unknowns or not well known. So I remember watching it and being like, this is Aragorn. This is not someone else. But then when I watched Solo, the Star Wars story, and I would see like Daenerys Targaryen or Woody Harrelson, I was like, oh, look, actors.
Yeah.
So,
it's like, it's just a jab.
I love seeing unknown or lesser known actors take on these iconic roles, because I can go into it blank slate and see them as that character completely on their own. So that's like one thing I'm like, oh, Michael Keaton had his time. As much as like little kid me is like, bring him back. Like, I would love to see someone brand new, fresh faced, bring something completely new that I can look at this person and be like, that is old Bruce Wayne, rather than being like, that is Michael Keaton, who played Batman in this movie with Jack Nicholson and is now playing it with this one. Like, part of me wants that newness because I feel like I can always just sink so much more into the world. But at the end of the day, as long as there's a shot of Martha's pearls flying towards the camera, I mean, they can really do whatever they want with Batman. You know, as long as there's the pearls, you've got a Batman
alleyway.
story.
Or the
Crime
market
alley.
photo on the background of the theater.
Oh yeah, Crime Alley. You can never get enough of Crime Alley.
Mm-mm.
So knowing
Batman
that,
musical.
now would you say, would you say that Michael Keaton was better as a Batman, or was he better as Bruce Wayne? Brian, what do you think?
Ooh.
He's one of the few that I honestly thought that he actually fit both roles. Like if you go to someone like George Clooney, which obviously he hated his time as Batman.
Yeah,
he was a Bruce Wayne. He was not a Batman. If you like, personally, Christian Bale, I thought he was a better Bruce Wayne than he was a Batman, because I don't know what that voice was that he was doing, but
Where's Rachel?
seems like every
Rachel.
every film that went forward, he had more rock gravel in his throat. I don't get it.
Yeah.
He's riding around that giant tent thing. It's scary.
Val Kilmer, I also thought was another one, and he got the short end of the stick with the storyline, obviously. But I thought Val Kilmer was also good as both roles. But I mean, Michael Keaton, I can't put him above one over the other. I think that he was fairly equal in both of them. It was believable for me.
Justin?
Yeah.
Oh, me? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Couldn't hear for a moment.
What do you think?
No, it's okay.
Yeah,
I got you
Keaton.
now.
Okay, Keaton as a better Bruce
Keaton,
Keaton as a better
Both.
Bruce Wayne or Batman or both? You say both?
I liked him as both. He had a good balance as Batman and Bruce Wayne.
Mhm.
And I do agree, Clooney was a better Bruce Wayne than he was a Batman. If Adam West was watching, I'm pretty sure he was probably laughing at that George Clooney as well. Val Kilmer was a good Batman, okay Bruce Wayne. And yeah, with Christian Bale, he was a good Bruce Wayne. He had another good balance. Just the problem that Keaton would be right up there is the voice.
Mm-hmm.
I have your lips up like this. Oh my God.
Smooth
Now, if we
Bob.
had to talk about who was a better Joker, that's still a debate, but
Oh yeah,
Heath Ledger
yeah.
by far.
yeah.
is
Here you
right
got two
there.
great
Jack
actors. There's
Nicholson.
no way of putting them in the same venue. They just played the roles great.
And I'm sure Jack Nicholson, after that came out, he's like, he stole my balloons.
Bob Gunn.
Oh.
Poor Bob. He never got he always got the
No,
short
he
end of the
didn't.
stick for that
Poor
scene.
bastard, that poor bastard.
Yeah. Speaking of Bob, Smooth Bob, what do you got?
I think Keaton was like a mixture of both, like perfectly put. The lip thing in the bat suit was weird, but he had the swag as Bruce, and he had that kind of like ominous feeling. Like if you saw something flying past you in this like blacked out car with a rocket engine strapped to the back, you knew who was coming after you. And his Batman is like iconic, like the suit, his Batman, and then his just like that era when he came out as Batman. There wasn't really that many superhero movies out, so he like stuck out for years as Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And he had like almost not all his villains were like mushed into one movie. They were like spread out. Yeah, there was like maybe one or two in the same movie, but they weren't like all mushed in there, like three at a time. Like the Spider-Man movies, you had like all of them mushed together.
Oh.
But I mean, if they bring Keaton back as Batman, I think his Batman would be probably updated, and he would probably be old man Bruce. So I would think
I would say so.
he would still have a swag as Bruce, but be like, yeah, I'm not wearing that suit again, but I'll rock the Bruce Wayne stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm.
He's like,
I would say
have a
that
neck now.
yeah, I have a neck now. I would say the same. I would say that he has a very good balance of both. Going forward, and it looks like this is what they're going to do. They'd be fools not to do it. One thing you don't want to do is ignore the fans. That never pays off. But
I mean, fans. Not to cut you off, but fans did bully a whole movie studio into fixing Sonic the Hedgehog. So
it worked. It worked.
Just like North Korea bullied Sony for the interview.
Yeah. So
Actually,
I
Mike,
think
I want to share this one really quick. I'm so sorry. Mike Myers did have a good joke on SNL about the interview and Sony. He said it was like he was pathetic to see them two fighting over a silly comedy. It was like watching two bald guys fighting over a comb. Who cares?
so I would say
Okay,
going
well.
forward that if they
My bad.
decided to, and I really should hope that they do, use Michael Keaton. Obviously, he would be Old Man Bruce. They will probably use if they're smart, they use the Disney money or this Disney studio, whatever studio Disney used to do their de-aging process for the original Ant-Man, for Michael Douglas, and kind of de-age Michael Keaton just enough to say, okay, this was the pinnacle. This was the point where I knew I had to stop. And the Bruce Wayne that we get now, he could be embittered, or he's obviously more cultured. He's more in tune with everything. So he kind of has a more set tone on what's going on. So, having somebody like the Flash showing up probably would not surprise him, as like in the Justice League cartoon where he sees his past self and he's not the least bit surprised.
Yeah,
It's like
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
he's not. What was it? Once in Future Past or something like that. And
yeah, it's when they do that weird time jump in Justice League, and they're just like,
yeah. And Bruce is the only one that's just like, yeah, I'm talking to myself. So what? You guys need to catch up. I already know what's going on. Let me guess. So he's the only human who, amongst Amazon, a ring-bearing human, aliens, and everything else, that's just like, I am not the least bit surprised by any of what I just seen or heard. I was actually waiting for something to happen today. So it's one of those things, and I can see them going forward that they will probably use him to go and say, we want you to play Bruce. We'll show you in the past as the bad, but we need you to be grizzled, beaten, but at the same time, even show it where he's almost without hope. That would be a nice little twist to say, hey, Gotham is going straight to shit. I can't do it anymore. And it's going to take more than just one man to do it, and who knows?
Do you think that they could do it kind of like the way that Marvel layers in its new heroes, like how when they did Civil War, we were introduced to Black Panther, who then we now had the Black Panther movie. Like they bring in Michael Keaton as old Bruce Wayne into this Flash movie, and they use that as him like mentoring one of his Robins into being the Gotham defender. Like, do you think that might be their overall plan? Like, let's get someone who's old enough to be the age where he's not putting on the cape and cowl anymore, but he's still someone who, Red Hood or Nighthawk goes to teach him. Like that could be a kind of cool.
If they were smart, and I've always said this, no one would fault the DC and Warner Brothers Studios for using the same formula that Marvel and Disney is using. No one will fault them. The most they could say is like, oh, they copycat. They're like, yeah, but it still works. And now everybody's making money, And
at the end of the day, the fans win.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
I am nowhere against use the same formula. It happens in sports. It happens everywhere. Use the same formula. Just change the name.
I mean, if they like go the route the TV shows did, I mean, the last Crisis on like the whatever, I can't even remember the name of the
Crisis on Infinite Earth.
Yeah.
That, I mean, the way they did that, they had so much secrecy going on. You had all these actors coming back for their roles, and then you got like the normal superheroes they've introduced into these shows, and then you threw them all together, and you had the 90s Flash in there.
That was fantastic.
And you had like all the old superheroes show up. I mean, to the point where they even went all the way back to Smallville and brought back Tom Welling and somebody else. I was like, oh my God, like middle school me would flip the fuck out if he saw this. And it was like, this is the greatest thing on TV right now. And like, I waited till it was like finished to where I could watch all of it in one go. If they do the movies like they've been doing the TV shows, they'll have a cash cow in their hands, no doubt.
Okay.
I think
I
the
think
problem that you run into with all that is the fact that you have to start unraveling some of the stuff that you've already done, the damage control. Like there's so much damage that they've already caused, so now they have to start pulling that back so they can push forward like that.
Yeah, I think that one DC show that no one talks about is Gotham. I was so excited when that show came out. I've watched everything except the last season, and I will say, not the greatest show of the DC shows, but one thing I did love was the Gotham world they created. I thought it was a perfect mix of like the Tim Burton era, like cartoony style that we loved, mixed with the realism. So you got to see these villains, how they became villains, and it was, you know, realistic enough, but it was still light enough. And like, I would love to see whatever Batman they make kind of have a little bit more of that balance, rather than being like, well, the Dark Knight was dark, we need to go darker. And like just trying to like undo that, like just do your own thing. I would love to see that overall world be translated into how they show Batman going forward. They don't need to take much else from that show, but like that I think would be really cool.
Well, guys, I mean, it's been, yeah, I would love to see some more of that. But unfortunately, I have to call it. It's our time. I'm going to call it game. It's the end of our show. I want to thank our guest, and I want to do a quick rundown where you can find everybody. So we'll start with Brian. Where can they find you?
Well, I am in Uranus. You can find me on Facebook. I don't even know what my name is on Facebook, but bknationvideo@gmail.com. Email me, and I can get all that information to you. Other than that, I'm here in Missouri, so if you get a chance to take a road trip down 66, stop by Uranus Fudge Factory and stop in and say hi.
All right, Justin.
I am just on Facebook, but I'd be proud to always flash the belt when I can. So, but no, I just basically Facebook. I'm on there, so I mean, feel free if you want to chat. I'm always up for nerdy stuff, even like wrestling. But I'll be busy the next couple of weeks when I wait for my daughter to show up. So should be having her, and I thought it'd be a cool idea to try and get a photo of her when she's born, and then like the birthday song that's in Thor Ragnarok when they're trying to get away. Have that go on. My brother would be like, oh shit.
All right, Smooth Bob.
You can find me on Twitter under 2091. YouTube would be Smooth Bob Mecha Academy, and on Instagram it would be Smoothest Bob.
All right, Venchise.
I am on Instagram at Mixed Madness Cosplay. I haven't been posting a lot, but I will be posting more soon. And my husband and I are talking about starting our own YouTube channel to fill the void of every convention not existing anymore for the time being. So there'll be some updates about that coming out on our Instagram pretty soon.
All right. And I am your dark vigilante of justice and host, Chris Fury of Nerds on Ice. And until next time, remember to educate yourself and others, entertain yourself and others, and empower yourself and others. Take care, everybody. Good night.
Hey.
Hey.
All right, everyone. Chill.
To hear all of our podcasts, look for Circle of Nerds on iTunes, iHeart, Pandora, Spotify, or wherever you get podcasts. And if you want to see these weirdos in their natural habitat, just look for Circle of Nerds on YouTube and Patreon. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode.